Well, here we go again. It's going to be LSU versus Iowa in the Elite Eight. Part of me is excited to see the matchup. The other part is a bit fearful of how toxic this might get. In this video, I am going to recap the LSU versus UCLA game, as I thought it would be the most compelling matchup in the Sweet 16, and I believe it lived up to the hype in my opinion. Before we start, if you like the content, then please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. All right, let's get into this. So first of all, to the losers, UCLA, it's a devastating loss. They were up 3 with 4 minutes left, and then they got outscored to end the game 18-6 by LSU. In a nutshell, they did not have enough shooting, so LSU held them to 35% from the floor and 21% from the three-point line. At the end of the game, it seemed like UCLA was afraid to take an outside shot, like Osborne had the one big bucket from the top of the key. But then after that, they just seemed insistent on driving to the basket and taking their chances, and they didn't get calls like they wanted. I thought Johnson's block on Kiki Rice was clean. At the same time, I wasn't a big fan of the one they called on Duglic. I think it was on Falaje Johnson, but you know, that's the nature of the game. Overall, this game reflected you are what you are during the regular season to some extent. If UCLA had it going and was firing on all cylinders, then they would roll, and that was their best sort of game, like versus UConn, where their guards were hitting shots, versus Ohio State as well. Those are the games that stick out to me, where you knew it was their night and it was going to be their way because they were dominating inside and then had enough outside to continue the run. But if it was a tight game, there are just so many that seem to stick out to me where it was a tight game and they just could not get it done. Obviously, the Oregon State game where they somehow gave that game away. The tournament game versus USC. And then as well, not only that one, but the game at Utah as well. That's another one they would very much rue that loss. And Corey Close pretty much said as much during the press conference. As expected, she gave good press conference and good coach because that's what she does. Saying the loss was on me and it's my responsibility to make the team tougher in the high pressure moments, and we didn't execute. And, you know, if anybody's going to take responsibility, she wasn't prickly about it. Somebody asked her about the Elite Eight, and she can't get there. She's only been there once, and she didn't get prickly on that as well. She acknowledged it, and that's why it's hard not to like Corey Close. One of the reporters tried to soften it by saying it was a young team, and they sort of went along that theme, and I look at it. I don't think they were a young team. I think this was the perfect team to make the Final Four, as you had a fifth-year senior point guard who had so much experience. As well, Cameron Brown offered leadership. Their power forward, Duglic, was a junior. The injury to Emily Bassoir, that was big. That she would have given them the more outside shooting that they needed. And once she did her ACL playing overseas, that was a big injury. But LSU would come back at you and say, hey, we lost Samaya Smith and we got it done. And they're right. And then the young players like London Jones, Rice, Jaquez, Sontak, Betts, Awala, they're all sophomores, so they've had experience. They know the gig. It's not like they were starry-eyed freshmen and didn't have any idea. This was a team made to make it to the Final Four, and they've really underachieved. You can say it any way you want, but that's the fact. This team should have made the Final Four. And sure, the Pac-12 was tough and everything else, but Oregon State was in a dogfight yesterday with Notre Dame, and they did what they needed to do to close out that game. And Corey Close pointed that out, and I agree with her. In some ways, UCLA reminds me of last year's South Carolina team, as they had one kryptonite, which was outside shooting. I don't think their outside shooting was enough. Relax, South Carolina. I'm not saying they were as good as you as last year, but that was a big hole in their game and could show up in big games when other teams could match their size and battle them on the inside. Or if they ran into a team who could really shoot the three ball, that's when it would hurt South Carolina. So obviously the offseason mission for UCLA is to get more shooting. Kiki Rice will be able to move to the point guard position, which I think will be good for her. But yes, UCLA, you need more outside shooting, just instead of relying on London Jones, who's effective, but at times I think she struggles when she gets a length on her like she did in this game, going 5 of 17 from the floor. Now the victors, LSU. Victors go the spoils. It's a good day for LSU and Kim Mulkey. What do you know? But the Post story released right before the game, and it was really a nothing burger, in my opinion. I really thought the same thing with the story on Brian Kelly. It was like a rambling long piece on Brian Kelly talking about the inequality of football and how some administrators get paid and others don't. It's like, we've known this for years. It's no secret. And then with Kim Mulkey, essentially she has a don't ask, don't tell policy, and fine, whatever. And yeah, I didn't see anything. Oh my goodness, about a player that got pushed off the team. My big takeaway of that is it's just a shame the portal rules weren't in place years ago. So if a player was in this situation, they could leave and go to a team they like. That was my great big takeaway from it. Mulkey's a dictator coach that drives, I imagine, players and coaches and everybody crazy. What's new? I mean, that's all. These coaches are that way. They're all type A, and they're all micromanagers and control freaks, and that's what they do. So no giant revelation to me. It seems like they got some of her emails through the Public Rights Act or whatever, and one was like, Angel Reese is a pain in the ass on social media. Well, that's probably accurate, or, I got no doubt Kim Mulkey has no time for all the stuff on social media, and Kim Mulkey. And oh my God, there was a team fight and glass was thrown. And man, it's so wrong that we wish we would have had our phones to record it, but Kim Mulkey doesn't let phones be let into the locker room, which is very smart in my opinion. What is in the locker room should stay in the locker room. So it was a nothing piece. 3 takeaways from the game. Haley Van Lith held up. She didn't turn over the ball. She didn't give them any points. She only went 1 for 8, but she got 6 free throws and had 7 points. She was good enough. That's all they need. I thought they would need more scoring from her, but they didn't. So she did what she needed to do. She didn't turn over the ball, and kudos to her. She got the charge. She's taken so much, especially from my channel, so much about her defense. Well, she got the charge, so she has last laugh. Second, Johnson and Morrow have been money down the stretch. They did what they needed to do, and kudos to them. Like, Johnson closed it out, and she's just making big buckets, dependable. Her growth, her sophomore year, has been amazing, and she's put the work in. Full credit to her. Third, Del Rosario held up. Like, it was a good matchup for her. Big body on big body. I saw at one point where Lauren Betts took a pull-up jumper. Like, she didn't want to go at Del Rosario. She sort of turned around and took a jumper at her and held up and did what she needed to do. So full credit to her. And ultimately, one thing is clear. LSU was locked in and played their game, and they were the better team as they closed out the game in the end. Now, the rematch with Iowa is going to be a circus, no doubt. I fear this could get very ugly. I myself don't mind LSU. I love the bad guy teams. Like, they revel in it. They seem to be wearing the black hat, and they're happy to do that. I just hope it doesn't get too out of line and too ugly in terms of racial overtones and things like that. I just hope it sticks to the game, but my God, we're going to see the Angel Reese taunting over and over again. By the way, I'm happy that Corey Close and Angel Reese shut down the whole taunting after the game story, so we don't have to go on and on about that ad nauseum. My ultimate question for LSU is, are they going to go back to their form where they play one really locked-in game, and then will they come out against Iowa and not be focused and sort of take it lightly, and all of a sudden they're in a game, and it's like we have to scramble to try to win it? Or is this they're locked in for the rest of the tournament and they're just going to go on a straight run to the Final Four? That would be my ultimate writing question looking at LSU moving forward. Your comments, thoughts, and poison. Have a good night.